stopped begging for intimacy like a pathetic little boy. My wife sneered while texting her lover. I took off my wedding ring that night and made a plan. 3 months later, she was crying in court while I walked out with everything. Her biggest mistake, thinking I'd never stop being weak. My name is Benjamin Walker. I'm 43 years old, a senior project manager at Riverside Construction, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had a decent marriage. The night everything shattered wasn't dramatic. No screaming match, no flying dishes, just cold cruelty delivered in our kitchen while I loaded the dishwasher. Our daughter Emma was upstairs, probably watching cartoons, blissfully unaware that her father was about to be gutted by her mother's words. "Stop acting like some desperate teenager begging for attention," my wife Chloe said, not even looking up from her phone. "Be a man for once, Benjamin. This constant need for intimacy is pathetic." I remember the dish I was holding, a blue ceramic plate from our wedding. I set it down carefully in the rack. The word pathetic hung in the air like smoke. "I wasn't begging," I said quietly. "I asked if you wanted to spend time together tonight." Chloe finally looked up, her eyes cold. "You're always asking, always hovering, always needing something from me. It's exhausting, Benjamin." I'd heard variations of this before. The eye rolls when I suggested date nights. The heavy sighs when I reached for her hand. But this was different. This wasn't frustration. This was contempt, pure and undiluted. "I miss us," I said, knowing the words were a mistake even as they left my mouth. She laughed, sharp and bitter. "Jesus, Benjamin, you sound like one of those pathetic guys on Reddit." It's embarrassing. Something inside me went still. Not angry, not hurt, just still, like a machine powering down. I looked at this 32-year-old stranger and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. I didn't argue, didn't defend myself. I just nodded once, dried my hands, and walked out of the kitchen. Behind me, Chloe muttered something else, but I didn't hear it. My ears were ringing with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I went into the guest bedroom and sat on the edge of the twin bed. I looked at my hands. These hands had built our deck, fixed her car, held her through her father's funeral. They weren't weak hands. I took off my wedding ring. Not dramatically, just instinct. I rolled it between my fingers, feeling the weight of gold I'd worn for over a decade. That's when I understood. I wasn't in a marriage. I was in a hostage situation, and the ransom was my dignity. That night, I made a decision. Not to leave, not yet, but to stop. Stop asking. Stop hoping. Stop being the man she clearly despised. If Chloe wanted me to stop begging for intimacy, I'd stop. Completely. At 5:30 the next morning, my alarm went off for the first time in years. I laced up running shoes I'd forgotten I owned and stepped outside into the cold dawn. The air burned my lungs, sharp and honest. When I got home, Chloe was still asleep. I showered, made breakfast, one plate, one cup of coffee. She eventually came down, surprised to see me up. "You're up early," she said cautiously. "Yeah," I replied, not looking up. She waited for me to elaborate, to fill the silence like I always did. I didn't. I just ate, rinsed my bowl, and went upstairs to get Emma ready for school. That was day one, the day I stopped begging, the day Benjamin Walker finally woke up. The running became a routine. Every morning at 5:30, before the sun crept over the Virginia skyline, before Chloe woke up, before Emma needed breakfast. Just me and the pavement, and the quiet realization that I'd forgotten what it felt like to do something purely for myself. By the end of week one, I could run 2 miles without stopping. My knees still ached, my lungs still burned, but there was something addictive about the pain. It was honest pain, not the slow suffocation of a marriage built on contempt. Chloe noticed the changes, but she didn't comment. Not at first. I'd stopped doing the little things I'd always done, the things that marked me as the devoted husband. No more coffee waiting for her when she came downstairs. No more asking about her day. No more back rubs while she scrolled through her phone, ignoring me. I moved my things into the guest room slowly. A few books one night, my laptop charger the next, then my clothes, one drawer at a time. Chloe walked past the open door once, paused, but said nothing. At work, I threw myself into the Riverside Commons project, a $3 million commercial development that had been dragging for months. I stayed late, not because I was avoiding home, though I was, but because I remembered what it felt like to be good at something, to be respected. My project team actually listened when I spoke. They didn't roll their eyes or call my ideas pathetic. "You're on fire lately, Ben," my boss said during a site walkthrough. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." What I was doing was simple. I was remembering who I used to be before I spent 12 years shrinking myself to fit into Chloe's idea of an acceptable husband. At home, the silence grew thicker. We existed in the same space like polite strangers. I made dinner, but only enough for Emma and me. I did laundry, but only Emma's and mine. Chloe's dirty clothes stayed in the hamper. She could figure it out. One night, about 3 weeks in, Chloe tried a different approach. She came into the guest room wearing the blue nightgown I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago, the one she'd never worn. "What are you doing in here?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. I looked up from my book. "Reading." "I mean, why are you sleeping in here?" "More comfortable," I said, turning back to the page. She stood there for a long moment, waiting for more. I didn't give it to her. Eventually, she left, closing the door a little too hard. I started keeping a journal again, something I hadn't done since before we got married. Not pages of anger or heartbreak, just observations. Notes about how Chloe's face tightened whenever Emma asked why Daddy didn't sleep in the big bed anymore. How she'd started wearing more makeup, dressing nicer, as if she could win back attention she'd spent years rejecting. My friend Gregory called one Saturday morning. Gregory Foster, 46, divorced 5 years ago, remarried to a woman who actually seemed to like him. "You sound different," Gregory said. "Different how?" "Awake," he replied. "You coming to the game tonight? Nationals are playing the Braves." I'd missed the last 6 months of our baseball tradition because Chloe always had something else planned. "Yeah," I said. "I'll be there." Chloe overheard. "We have dinner at my mom's tonight," my wife said after I hung up. "You have dinner at your mom's," I corrected. "I have plans." Her mouth opened, closed. She wasn't used to this version of me, the one who didn't rearrange his life to accommodate hers. "Emma and I are going," Chloe said. "Okay. Have fun." I went to the game. Gregory and I drank beer, ate overpriced hot dogs, and laughed about nothing important. On the way home, he asked the question I'd been avoiding. "You good, man? You and Chloe?" I thought about lying. "No," I said instead. "But I'm getting there." When I got home, Chloe was waiting in the living room. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "About this." She gestured vaguely at me. "This attitude. This distance." I sat down across from her, not next to her. "You told me to stop begging." I stopped. "I didn't mean," she stopped, frustration flashing across her face. "You're being childish." "No," I said calmly. "I'm being honest. You wanted space. You have it." She stared at me, and for the first time in months, I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not love, not warmth, just the faint recognition that something had shifted, and she wasn't in control anymore. I stood up. "Good night, Chloe." As I walked to the guest room, I heard her whisper something, but I didn't stop to ask what. That part of me, the part that needed to know, to fix, to chase, was gone. 2 months into my transformation, I found the credit card statement. Not because I was snooping, but because Chloe had left it on the kitchen counter, buried under junk mail like she didn't care if I saw it or maybe wanted me to find it. Charges from the Marriott downtown. 3 different dates over the past 2 months. Each one a Tuesday afternoon, the day I had late site meetings at the Riverside Commons project. My wife had been careful, but not careful enough. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the numbers. $187, $212, $195. Hotel room she'd paid for while I was working 60-hour weeks to provide the life she claimed wasn't good enough. Emma was at school. Chloe was at work. Or so she said. I could have called her, confronted her, demanded answers. The old Benjamin would have. The old Benjamin would have driven to her office, made a scene, begged her to explain. I took a photo of the statement with my phone. Then I called a lawyer. The attorney's name was Richard Vance, a guy Gregory had recommended. "He's expensive but thorough," my friend had said, "and he doesn't lose." "Mr. Walker," Richard said when I sat down in his office that afternoon. "Tell me what's going on." I showed him the statement, told him about the contempt, the rejection, the slow death of our marriage. He listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. "Do you want to save this marriage?" Richard asked when I finished. I thought about it, really thought about it. "No," I said. "I want out." "Then we'll get you out," Richard replied. "Virginia allows for divorce based on fault. Adultery qualifies. But we need proof beyond credit card statements." What kind of proof? Photos, witnesses, more documentation. I can recommend a private investigator. I hired the investigator that day. His name was Michael Peterson, a former cop who looked exactly like what you'd expect. Weathered face, no-nonsense attitude. He charged $150 an hour plus expenses. Give me 2 weeks, James said. If she's meeting someone, I'll find out who. I went home that night and acted completely normal. Made dinner for Emma, helped her with her math homework, watched her favorite show with her. When Chloe came home at 7, I barely looked up. How was your day? My wife asked, testing the waters. Good. Finished the foundation inspection at Riverside, I said. You? Fine. Busy. She paused. You seem different lately. I looked at her. This woman I'd loved for over a decade. This stranger who'd been sleeping with someone else while I paid her bills. Just focused on work, I said. She wanted more. I could see it in her face, but I gave her nothing. That night, she tried again with a nightgown, the sultry smile, the performance of intimacy. I was reading in the guest room when she appeared. Ben, Chloe said softly. Can we talk? About what? She sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that I could smell her perfume. The expensive kind I bought her for Christmas. About us. I feel like we're drifting apart. The irony almost made me laugh. We're fine, Chloe. We're not fine. You're sleeping in here. You barely talk to me. You're gone all the time. I'm working, I said. Building a career. Providing for our family. Isn't that what you wanted? A man who acts like a man. She flinched at her own words thrown back at her. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. I closed my book. Is there something specific you need, Chloe? Because I have an early meeting tomorrow. She stared at me, tears forming in her eyes. Real or performed, I couldn't tell anymore. I need my husband back. Your husband stopped begging, I said quietly. You made that very clear. She left the room without another word. I picked up my phone and texted James the investigator. She's getting nervous. Tuesday afternoons. Marriott downtown. His response came 30 seconds later. I'll be there. James called me on a Wednesday morning, 6 days into surveillance. I was at the Riverside site, reviewing blueprints with my foreman, when my phone buzzed. Mr. Walker, we need to meet, the investigator said. I've got what you need. We met at a diner 20 minutes from my house. James slid a manila envelope across the table, his expression grim. Your wife's having an affair, he said. Guy named Dustin Dixon. They've been meeting at the Marriott every Tuesday for at least 3 months, probably longer. Dustin Dixon. The name hit me like a freight train. Dustin Dixon, the guy who'd made my life miserable in high school. The football player who'd shove me into lockers, who'd mock me in front of girls, who'd call me weak every chance he got. You know him? James asked, reading my face. Yeah, I said, my voice hollow. I know him. I opened the envelope. Photos of Chloe walking into the hotel. Dustin meeting her in the lobby. The two of them kissing in the parking garage. Time stamps, dates, everything documented. There's more, James said. I ran a background check. Dixon's been married for 10 years. 3 kids. His wife has no idea. Of course he was married. Of course Chloe had chosen the one person who could humiliate me on multiple levels. What do you want to do with this? James asked. I looked at the photos of my wife's face, happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. She was smiling at Dustin Dixon, the high school bully, while I was home raising our daughter and paying for her affair. I want copies of everything, I said, and I want you to find Dustin's wife. James nodded. Already have her information. Name's Laura Dixon. Works as a nurse at Henrico General. I made a decision right there, sitting in that diner booth. Send her copies too. She deserves to know. You sure? James asked. That's going to blow everything up. It's already blown up, I replied. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. That night, I went home and acted normal. Helped Emma with her science project. Made dinner. Watched Chloe move through the house like everything was fine. Like she hadn't spent the afternoon in a hotel room with a man who'd tormented me 25 years ago. How was your day? Chloe asked during dinner. Productive, I said. Very productive. The next morning, Richard the lawyer filed the divorce papers. Adultery. Irreconcilable differences. Full custody of Emma, based on Chloe's infidelity and unstable behavior. I had the papers served to Chloe at her office. Professional, public, humiliating. Exactly the way she'd humiliated me. My phone rang at 2:47 p.m. Chloe's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again, 17 times in an hour. Finally, I answered. How could you? My wife screamed. You had me served at work. Everyone saw. How could I? I repeated calmly. How could you sleep with Dustin Dixon for 3 months while I raised our daughter? Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Yeah, I said. I know. I know everything, Chloe. The hotel. The affair. All of it. And so does your boss now, since you were so loud in the office. Ben, please let me explain. No, I interrupted. You don't get to explain. You lost that right when you call me pathetic for wanting my own wife. I hung up. She called back immediately. I blocked her number. Then I called Laura Dixon. Laura Dixon and I met at a quiet restaurant on the outskirts of Richmond, far from anywhere our spouses might see us. She was 41, a nurse with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen too much disappointment. When she sat down across from me, I saw my own exhaustion reflected back. Thank you for meeting me, Laura said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. When I got those photos, I didn't know whether to believe them. They're real, I said. I'm sorry you had to see them like that. She pulled out her own envelope, similar to mine. I hired someone too, after you send the first batch. Want to be sure. She spread photos across the table. Different angles, different dates, same betrayal. Turns out Dustin's been doing this for years. Different women. I was just too stupid to see it. You're not stupid, I said. You trusted your husband. That's not stupidity. Laura laughed bitterly. My attorney says I'll get everything. The house, most of the assets, primary custody of the kids. Dustin's looking at supervised visitation at best. Good, I said, meaning it. We talked for 2 hours. Compared timelines, shared attorney information, built a strategy. By the end, we'd formed an alliance. 2 people destroyed by the same betrayal, working together to make sure our spouses face consequences. Chloe's parents still don't know, I mentioned. I'm having dinner with them next week. Laura's eyes sharpened. You should tell them. My in-laws were horrified when they found out what Dustin did. Cut him off completely. That gave me an idea. The dinner with Chloe's parents happened on a Saturday night. Just me and Emma, the way I'd requested. Her mother, Patricia, answered the door with concern already etched on her face. Benjamin, where's Chloe? Patricia asked. That's what I need to talk to you about, I said. Her father, Donald, sat in his recliner, sensing the gravity. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him everything. The contempt, the rejection, the affair with Dustin Dixon. I showed them the evidence, the hotel receipts, the photos. Patricia cried. Donald's jaw clenched so tight, I could see the muscles working. I can't believe she'd do this, Patricia whispered. Not our Chloe. I'm sorry, I said. But you need to know who your daughter has become. Donald stood up, walked to the window. What do you need from us, son? Just the truth when she tries to spin this, I said. Because she will. She'll make me the villain. I just need you to remember what you saw here tonight. They agreed. More than that, they were furious. Patricia called Chloe that night, and I heard later it was a conversation that ended with Chloe sobbing and her mother saying things like, ashamed and disappointed. At work, I got the promotion I'd been chasing for 2 years. Regional manager, overseeing 3 major projects across Virginia. The salary bump was significant, $142,000, and it came with relocation options. My boss pulled me aside. Ben, you've been on fire lately. Whatever's going on in your personal life, you're channeling it well. Thank you, sir, I said. The regional position comes with the option to relocate to the Charlottesville office, my boss continued. Fresh start, if you want it. Think about it. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. I'll take it. That night, I told Emma over pizza. Just the 2 of us, sitting at our kitchen table like we'd done every night since Chloe moved out. Sweetheart, how would you feel about moving to a new city? I asked my daughter. Emma, 7 years old and wiser than she should be, looked up from her pepperoni slice. Will Mom come? No, honey. It would just be us. She thought about it, then nodded. Okay. Well, I have my own room. The biggest room, I promised. Then okay. She smiled. Can we get a dog? Maybe, I said, and for the first time in months, I felt something like happiness. Chloe found out about the relocation through her lawyer. She called me 17 times that day. I answered once. You can't take Emma to Charlottesville, my wife screamed. Actually, I can, I said calmly. My attorney already filed the paperwork. You're welcome to contest it, but given the adultery and the fact that Emma told the custody evaluator she wants to live with me, I don't think you'll win. Benjamin, please. This conversation is over, Chloe. Talk to your lawyer. I hung up and blocked her number again. Some bridges don't need to be rebuilt. I met Stacy Harper at the gym. It wasn't planned, wasn't some strategic move to make Chloe jealous. I was running on the treadmill, trying to hit 7 miles before work, when the woman next to me stumbled and nearly fell. I hit the emergency stop and caught her elbow. You okay? She was young, maybe mid-20s, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and embarrassed brown eyes. I'm fine, just clumsy. Thank you. No problem, I said, returning to my run. The next day, she was there again. Same treadmill, same time. She smiled when she saw me. No dramatic saves today, I promise. I laughed. Good to know. Her name was Stacy Harper. She was 25, worked as a graphic designer for a marketing firm, and was training for a half marathon. We started talking between sets, casual conversation that felt effortless. You're here every morning, Stacy observed one day. That's dedication. Habit, I said. Helps clear my head. Rough year? She asked, then immediately looked embarrassed. Sorry, that's none of my business. It's okay. Yeah, rough year. Divorce mostly. I'm sorry, Stacy said, and seemed to mean it. For what it's worth, you seem like you're handling it well. I appreciated that she didn't pry, didn't ask questions. We just talked about running, work, books we were reading. Normal conversation with someone who didn't know my history, didn't judge me, didn't see me as pathetic. One morning, Stacy mentioned she was looking for someone to run with on weekends. My running group fell apart, and doing long runs alone is brutal. I could use a running partner, I said before I could overthink it. We ran together that Saturday, 10 miles through Richmond's parks, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her job designing logos and websites. I told her about construction management, about the satisfaction of watching buildings rise from blueprints. You light up when you talk about your work, Stacy said. That's rare. I forgot I used to love it, I admitted. Got lost somewhere along the way. After the run, we grabbed coffee. Nothing romantic, just two people enjoying each other's company. But I noticed how easy it was to smile around her, how she laughed at my jokes, how she looked at me like I was interesting rather than insufficient. Gregory called that afternoon. Who's the girl? My friend asked. What girl? The one you went running with. I saw you guys at the park. You looked happy. Her name's Stacy, I said. We're just friends. Sure, Gregory said, but I could hear the smile in his voice. Just friends who make you smile like that. Good for you, man. Chloe found out through mutual friends. She showed up at my apartment, the new place I'd rented near Emma's school, banging on the door at 9 p.m. Who is she? Chloe demanded when I opened it. Who? I asked calmly. The girl you're seeing. Everyone's talking about it. Her name is Stacy. We run together. Not that it's your business anymore. Chloe's face contorted. You're dating someone? Already. I'm not dating anyone, I said. But even if I were, you lost the right to care when you spent 3 months sleeping with Dustin Dixon. That's different. No, Chloe. It's not. Now leave before I call the police for harassment. She left, and I stood in my doorway, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not victory, exactly. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I didn't need her approval anymore. The text came from Chloe's sister, Amy, on a Tuesday morning. Can we meet? It's important. Amy and I had always gotten along. She was 28, sensible, nothing like Chloe. We met at a coffee shop near VCU, and she looked exhausted. I need to apologize for my sister, Amy said before I could even sit down. What she did to you, it's unforgivable. You don't need to apologize for her choices, I said. Someone does. Amy stirred her coffee, not drinking it. She's been calling me every day, crying, saying you ruined her life. But I know the truth, Ben. I've known for months something was wrong. Ow. Amy pulled out her phone, showed me text messages. Chloe bragging to her about Dustin, about the affair, about how exciting it was. Screenshots from 6 months ago. She told you. I felt my jaw tighten. She told me everything. Amy said quietly. Said you were boring. That Dustin made her feel alive again. I told her she was destroying her family. She laughed. Said you'd never leave because you were too weak. The word weak landed like it always did. She was wrong, I said. Thank God. Amy reached across the table, squeezed my hand. You deserve so much better, Ben. You always did. I'm testifying for you in the custody hearing if you need me. You do that. In a heartbeat. Emma deserves a stable parent, and that's you, not Chloe. 3 days later, 6 of our mutual friends arranged what Chloe later called an intervention. They invited her to what she thought was a girls' night, then confronted her about the affair, the lies, how she treated me. Jessica, her best friend since college, sent me the recording. I thought you'd want to hear this, Jessica texted. I listened to the whole thing. 6 women, people who'd been at our wedding, who'd celebrated birthdays and holidays with us, telling Chloe exactly what they thought of her behavior. You had a good man. Jessica's voice came through clearly. Benjamin was loyal, hardworking, a great father. And you threw it away for what? Some high school crush who's using you. You don't understand, Chloe sobbed on the recording. Ben changed. He became cold. He became cold after you spent years treating him like garbage, another voice said. Sarah, I think. We all saw it, Chloe. The eye rolls, the dismissive comments, the way you mocked him in front of us. It was cruel. I never meant. Yes, you did. Jessica interrupted. You meant every word. You wanted him to feel small so you could feel big. And now you're alone, and you only have yourself to blame. The recording ended with Chloe storming out. Jessica called me that night. She's furious at all of us, Jessica said, but someone needed to say it. What she did to you is abuse, Ben. Emotional abuse. For years. Thank you, I said, surprised by the lump in my throat. We should have said something sooner, Jessica admitted. We all knew. We just thought, I don't know, that you guys would work it out. I'm sorry we stayed silent. After I hung up, I sat in my new apartment, Emma asleep in her room, and let myself process it. 6 people had witnessed my marriage deteriorating and said nothing. But at least now they were speaking up, validating what I'd felt for years. The custody evaluation happened the following week. A court-appointed psychologist interviewed Emma separately, then me, then Chloe. Emma told her she wanted to live with Daddy because, in her 7-year-old words, Mommy yells a lot and is always sad now. The psychologist's report recommended primary custody to me with supervised visitation for Chloe until she completed counseling and demonstrated stability. Chloe's lawyer tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. The affair, the financial irresponsibility, the testimony from Amy and the friends, Emma's own words. Your client destroyed this marriage through adultery, my attorney, Richard, said during mediation. Mr. Walker has been a primary caregiver for months while your client was occupied with her affair. The court will side with stability. Chloe's lawyer knew it too. They settled. I got primary custody. The house would be sold and proceeds split, and Chloe would get minimal alimony for 3 years, far less than she'd wanted. When the papers were signed, Chloe looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I hope you're happy now, she said bitterly. I'm not happy, I replied honestly, but I'm free. There's a difference. That night, I took Emma out for ice cream. Just the 2 of us, celebrating nothing in particular, just being together. Dad, Emma said, chocolate ice cream on her chin. Are you sad about Mom? I thought about it, really thought about it. No, sweetheart. I'm sad it had to happen this way. But I'm not sad it's over. Me neither, Emma said, then went back to her ice cream. Sometimes kids understand things better than adults ever could. The prenuptial agreement surfaced 3 weeks before our court date. I'd completely forgotten about it, but my attorney Richard found it buried in old files from before our wedding. Ben, did you sign this under duress? Richard asked, showing me the document. I read it, memories flooding back. Chloe had presented it the night before our rehearsal dinner, already 3 drinks in, insisting I sign it or she'd call off the wedding. Her father had written it, protecting family money I didn't even know existed. Yeah, I said. She gave me an ultimatum. Sign or no wedding. This is invalid, Richard said with a grin. Coercion, signed within 24 hours of the wedding. No independent counsel for you. A first-year law student could get this thrown out. What does that mean? It means Chloe doesn't get the protection she thought she had. The inheritance from her grandmother, the trust fund, all of its marital property now. The look on Chloe's face when her lawyer told her was something I wished I'd seen. Instead, I got the furious phone call. You're really going to take my grandmother's money? Chloe screamed. Money that was supposed to be for Emma's college. I'm taking half of the marital assets, which that money became when you forced me to sign an invalid prenup, I said calmly. And unlike you, I'll actually put my half toward Emma's education. You're being vindictive. No, Chloe. I'm just done being the one who loses everything while you face no consequences. The money wasn't even the biggest revelation. While going through financial records for the divorce, Richard discovered something else. The education fund I'd been contributing to for Emma, $15,000 I'd saved over 7 years, had been drained. Where did this money go? Richard asked, showing me the statements. I traced the withdrawals. All to Chloe's personal account, then cash withdrawals. She stole from our daughter's college fund, I said, feeling rage build for the first time in months. Richard made it a centerpiece of our case. Your Honor, Mrs. Walker didn't just betray her husband. She stole from her own child's future to fund her affair. The judge's expression said everything. Chloe tried to claim she'd planned to pay it back, that it was an emergency, but the dates aligned perfectly with the hotel charges. She'd taken Emma's future to pay for afternoons with Dustin Dixon. Mrs. Walker will repay the education fund in full within 6 months, the judge ordered, with interest, and if she fails, she'll be held in contempt. Chloe could barely afford rent. The idea of her coming up with $15,000 plus interest was laughable. Outside the courthouse, Chloe tried one last manipulation. She caught me by the arm, tears streaming. Please, Ben, don't take everything from me. I made mistakes, but I'm still Emma's mother. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. The face I'd loved for over a decade. Now just a stranger who'd chosen to hurt me in the most personal ways possible. You're right, I said. You are Emma's mother, and that's the only reason you're getting anything at all. But you and me? We're done, Chloe. Completely. What if I told you I never loved him? She whispered desperately. That it was just a mistake, that I want you back. Then I'd say you destroyed our marriage for nothing, I replied. Which honestly makes it worse, not better. I pulled my arm free and walked away. Behind me, I heard her start to sob, but I didn't turn around. Some people don't deserve your sympathy, even when they cry. That evening, Stacy and I went for our usual run. She'd become a constant in my life over the past months, someone I could talk to without judgment, someone who made me laugh when I forgot I still could. How'd court go? Stacy asked as we hit our stride. It's over, I said. Finally, completely over. How do you feel? I thought about it. Lighter. Like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally put it down. Stacy smiled. Good. You deserve to feel light. We ran in comfortable silence for a while. Then she said something that caught me off guard. Ben, I know this might be terrible timing, but would you want to grab dinner sometime? Like, actual dinner, not post-run coffee. I looked at her, this 25-year-old woman who'd somehow become one of my closest friends without me realizing it. Are you asking me on a date? I asked. Maybe, Stacy said, suddenly looking uncertain. Is that okay? I know you're going through a divorce, and this might be too soon. It's not too soon, I interrupted. And yes, I'd like that. Her smile lit up her whole face. Yeah, I said, and meant it. That night, I called Gregory. I think I might be moving on, I told my friend. About damn time, Gregory said. Life's too short to stay stuck in the past, brother. Go live it. For the first time in years, I actually believed I could. The move to Charlottesville happened on a crisp October morning. Emma was excited, bouncing in the front seat of the U-Haul as we drove west from Richmond. Behind us, our old life faded into memory. Dad, will our new house have a backyard? Emma asked for the 10th time. It does, I said, smiling. Big enough for that dog we talked about. Really? Her eyes went wide. Really? We'll go to the shelter next weekend. The consulting business I'd started on the side had taken off faster than I'd expected. Construction management consulting for commercial developers, something I could do remotely while still handling my regional manager duties. Within 6 months, it was bringing in an additional $4,000 a month and growing. Gregory called as we hit the highway. You really doing this, brother? My friend asked. I really am, I said. Fresh start. New city. New life. Good for you, man. You earned it. And hey, Stacy going with you. I glanced at the car following behind us, Stacy driving her own vehicle loaded with boxes. She's got a job lined up with a design firm in Charlottesville. Started next month. Look at you, Gregory said, and I could hear the pride in his voice. from broken to thriving in less than a year. Not broken anymore, I corrected. Just rebuilt. The custody arrangement was finalized. Emma would spend every other weekend with Chloe, who'd moved into a small apartment in Richmond and taken a job at a marketing firm that paid half what she used to make. The affair had cost her everything: her marriage, her friends, her family's respect, her financial security. Dustin Dixon's divorce had been even messier. Laura took him for everything: the house, the cars, full custody of their 3 kids. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment and working at a car dealership. The high school bully reduced to cold calling strangers about financing options. There was a certain poetry to it. Our new house in Charlottesville was perfect. 3 bedrooms, a yard big enough for Emma to play in, and a home office where I could run my growing consulting business. The neighborhood was quiet, full of families, the kind of place where people actually talk to their neighbors. Stacy helped us unpack, her presence so natural that Emma kept asking when she was moving in too. "Not yet, kiddo," Stacy said, laughing. "Your dad and I are taking things slow." "That's what adults say when they like each other," Emma said with 7-year-old wisdom. Stacy looked at me, grinning. She's not wrong. That night, after Emma was asleep in her new room, Stacy and I sat on the back porch with beers, looking at the stars. "Thank you," I said, "for being patient with all of this. The divorce, the move, everything. You're worth being patient for," Stacy replied simply. "Besides, I've never seen someone handle a nightmare with so much grace. You could have been bitter, angry, vindictive." "I was vindictive," I admitted. "A little. Strategic vindictive," Stacy corrected. "There's a difference. You made sure Chloe faced consequences, but you didn't become cruel. That takes strength." I thought about that. About the man I'd been a year ago, begging for affection from someone who'd already checked out. About the man I was now, sitting on my own porch, building a life on my terms. "I forgot who I was," I said. Somewhere along the way, I let her convince me I was less than I am. Getting that back, remembering I'm not pathetic or weak or any of the things she said, that's been the real victory. Stacy leaned her head on my shoulder. "You're the strongest person I know, Ben. Don't ever forget that again." The next weekend, we went to the animal shelter. Emma fell in love with a golden retriever mix named Cooper, 3 years old with a tail that never stopped wagging. "Can we, Dad? Please," Emma begged. "Yes, sweetheart. We can." Watching Emma play with Cooper in our backyard that afternoon, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete, unqualified happiness. Not despite what I'd been through, but because of it. The fire had burned away everything weak, leaving only what was strong enough to survive. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Can we talk?" I deleted it without responding. Some conversations aren't worth having. 8 months after the move, life had settled into a rhythm I'd never imagined possible. Emma thrived in her new school, making friends easily, her grades excellent. The dog, Cooper, was her constant companion. Every morning, the 3 of us would walk through the neighborhood before school, Emma chattering about her day, while Cooper chased squirrels. My consulting business had grown beyond my expectations. I'd hired 2 employees, both former colleagues from Riverside Construction, and we were pulling in $15,000 a month in revenue. The regional manager position at the new development firm kept me challenged, but the consulting work was mine, built from nothing, proof that I could create success on my own terms. Stacy had become a fixture in our lives. She and Emma baked cookies on Saturday mornings while I worked in my office. She came to Emma's school plays, her soccer games, treated my daughter with genuine affection that wasn't performed or obligatory. We hadn't moved in together. Both of us wanted to take things slow, but the conversation was happening. Emma asked me today if I was going to be her stepmom. Stacy mentioned one evening after Emma was in bed. "What did you say?" I asked. "I said that's up to her dad and me, but that I'd be honored if that's what happens someday." I pulled her close. "Someday soon, maybe." Stacy smiled. "Yeah, maybe." Chloe's life had gone in the opposite direction. The few times she picked up Emma for her weekends, she looked diminished. Thinner, older, the confidence she'd once wielded like a weapon, now completely gone. She tried to restart things with Dustin after both divorces finalized, but apparently he'd moved on to someone else. The pattern repeated itself. Emma came back from one weekend visit quieter than usual. "You okay, sweetheart?" I asked. Mom cried a lot this weekend, Emma said. She kept saying she missed you. That must have been hard to see, I said carefully. She asked me if you were happy now, Emma continued. I said, yeah, you smile all the time. She cried more. I knelt down to Emma's level. Your mom made choices that hurt our family. But she's still your mom, and it's okay to love her even when she makes mistakes. I know, Emma said, but I like living with you better. You're here, present. That's what I'd learned to be. Present for my daughter, for my work, for myself. Not constantly chasing approval from someone who'd never planned to give it. On a Saturday in June, nearly a year after everything fell apart, I took Emma and Stacy hiking in Shenandoah National Park. We reached a viewpoint overlooking the valley, the three of us sitting on a boulder and sharing sandwiches. Dad, are you glad Mom left? Emma asked suddenly. Stacy tensed beside me, but I took the question seriously. I'm sad about how it happened, I said honestly. But Emma, sometimes the hardest things lead us to the best places. If your mom and I hadn't split up, we wouldn't be here right now. You wouldn't have Cooper. We wouldn't live in this beautiful place. And Stacy wouldn't be in our lives. So it's good she left. Emma pressed. It's good that we found our way to something better, I said. Does that make sense? Emma thought about it, then nodded. Yeah, I like better. Me too, kiddo. Me too. That evening, I got a final text from Chloe. A long one, full of apologies and regrets, asking if we could try again, saying she'd changed, that she understood now what she'd lost. I read it once, then showed it to Stacy. What are you going to say? She asked. I thought about the man I'd been, desperate for Chloe's approval, willing to shrink himself to fit her idea of acceptable. Then I thought about the man I'd become, standing on a mountain with his daughter and a woman who actually chose him every day. I typed back, I'm glad you're doing better, Chloe. But that chapter is closed. I moved on to something real. I hope you find that too someday. Then I blocked her number. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Some doors need to stay closed so new ones can open. Stacy kissed my cheek. You're really free now, aren't you? Yeah, I said, pulling her close while Emma played with Cooper in the grass. I really am. The next morning, I woke up early and went for my run. 6 miles through Charlottesville, past the university, through neighborhoods where families were just waking up. When I got home, Emma was already up, making pancakes with Stacy, both of them laughing at some joke I'd missed. This was my life now. Not perfect, but mine. Built on honesty instead of obligation. On presence instead of performance. On strength instead of begging. Chloe had told me to be a man and stop begging for intimacy. So I did. I stopped begging and started becoming the man I was always meant to be. The one who knew his worth, who built his own happiness, who chose people who chose him back. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all. Not her suffering, but my thriving. Not her regret, but my freedom. I walked into my kitchen, kissed Stacy good morning, hugged my daughter, and sat down to breakfast with my family. The family I'd chosen, the life I'd built, the future I'd earned. 12 years ago, I'd married a woman who taught me what I didn't want. Now I was living a life that showed me what I did. And I'd never been happier.